The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched out like a massive dome filled with the strangest collection of beings Lisa Carter had ever seen. She sat in the small human section, watching as creatures with tentacles, crystal bodies, and gas-filled suits argued about trade routes and territorial disputes. The air smelled like a mix of ozone and something that reminded her of burnt plastic. 3 years she had been coming to these meetings, and 3 years she had watched her people get treated like children who didn't know any better. Lisa adjusted her dark blue, diplomatic jacket and checked her notes one more time. Today was supposed to be different. Today the council would vote on human expansion rights. She had prepared for months, gathering evidence of successful human colonies, peaceful trade agreements, and scientific discoveries that had helped dozens of species solve problems they couldn't handle alone. The folder in her lap contained proof that humans deserved the same rights as any other. Galactic Civilization. Chairman Vexstar called the session to order with a sound that came from somewhere deep in his throat. The hegemony leader looked like a giant squid that had learned to walk upright, his purple skin glistening under the chamber lights. His 4 eyes fixed on different sections of the room as he spoke in the Universal Translator's mechanical voice. We gather today to discuss the human request for expanded territorial rights, Vexstar announced. The proposal seeks permission for human settlement in 17 additional star systems. Lisa stood when her turn came to speak. She walked to the center podium, her heels clicking on the polished stone floor. Around her, hundreds of alien representatives watched with expressions she couldn't read. Some looked bored, others seemed annoyed that their time was being wasted on human matters. Honored council members, Lisa began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. Humanity has proven itself a responsible member of the galactic community. Our colonies have maintained perfect environmental records. We have shared our medical advances freely with species who needed them. Our scientists have contributed to 17 major research projects that have benefited the entire galaxy. She pulled out her first piece of evidence, a holographic display showing human colony worlds. Green planets with clean cities, orbital stations that hummed with activity, research facilities that had made breakthrough discoveries in energy production and disease treatment. Our expansion request covers systems that are currently uninhabited and pose no territorial conflicts, Lisa continued. These worlds would provide resources and living space for our growing population, while contributing to galactic prosperity through trade and scientific advancement. The Zephyrian representative made a sound like wind chimes in a storm. The human approach to technology remains primitive at best. Their solutions are crude workarounds rather than elegant engineering. We question whether such a young species should be granted expanded influence. Lisa felt her jaw tighten but kept her voice steady. Our crude solutions have solved problems that elegant engineering couldn't touch. When the Altarian plague threatened to wipe out their entire civilization, human medical techniques saved millions of lives. When the Nexari data cores began failing, human computer specialists found fixes that your elegant systems had missed. The crystalline Nexari representative's body flashed with angry red light. Human methods lack sophistication. They break problems apart with brute force rather than understanding the underlying principles. This is not the behavior of a mature civilization. More voices joined the criticism. The Kravani delegate questioned human military discipline. The ethereal collective representative suggested that humans were too emotional for expanded responsibility. One by one, the established powers of the galaxy lined up to explain why humanity needed to stay in its place. Lisa listened to each criticism, feeling her carefully prepared events crumble against a wall of prejudice and fear. These beings didn't care about human achievements or potential. They saw humanity as a threat to their comfortable hierarchy, a disruption to the way things had always been done. Chairman Vexstar called for the vote. All in favor of granting expanded territorial rights to the human species. Lisa watched the voting display with growing disbelief. Not a single green light appeared. 0 votes in favor. All opposed to the human expansion request. The board lit up like a constellation. 43 red lights, representing every single non-human member of the council. The vote was unanimous against humanity. The motion fails, Vexstar announced with what sounded like satisfaction. Furthermore, this council expresses concern about human unpredictability and violent tendencies. We hereby restrict human expansion to their current 3-star systems until such time as they demonstrate greater maturity and understanding of galactic civilization. Lisa felt something cold settle in her stomach. Not only had they rejected human expansion, they were actually reducing human rights, trapping her people in a tiny corner of space while alien civilizations controlled vast empires spanning hundreds of worlds. She stood slowly, her mind racing. Around her, alien representatives were already moving on to other business, dismissing the human issue as settled and forgotten. 3 years of diplomacy, 3 years of patient negotiation and careful relationship building, and this was the result. They didn't just see humans as inferior, they saw them as a problem to be contained. Lisa reached into her jacket and pulled out her diplomatic credentials. The small metal badge caught the chamber lights as she held it up for everyone to see. The room gradually fell silent as aliens noticed her movement. "Chairman Vexstar," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the sudden quiet, "I want to make sure I understand the Council's position. Humanity has followed every rule, respected every treaty, and contributed to galactic civilization in countless ways. In return, you have voted to restrict our people to 3-star systems, while species that have accomplished far less control vast territories." Vexstar's tentacles waved dismissively. "Young species must learn their place in the galactic order. Patience and humility are virtues that humans have yet to master," Lisa nodded slowly. "I see. Thank you for making your position so clear." She placed her diplomatic badge on the podium with a soft click that somehow seemed to echo through the entire chamber. "The United Earth Federation hereby withdraws from all diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council, effective immediately. We will pursue our own path among the stars without seeking permission from those who have made their prejudice so abundantly clear." The chamber erupted. Alien voices rose in shock, anger, and confusion. Electronic screeches and biological roars filled the air as representatives realized what had just happened. No species had ever voluntarily left the council. The very idea was unthinkable. Lisa walked toward the exit, her footsteps echoing in the chaos. Behind her, Chairman Vexstar was calling for order, his voice barely audible over the noise. She didn't look back. The last thing she heard before the chamber doors closed was Vexstar shouting something about rash decisions and consequences. Lisa smiled grimly as she headed for her ship. They wanted to talk about consequences? They were about to learn what human consequences looked like. Back on Earth, President Jake Morrison received Lisa's report in the Oval Office 12 hours later. The quantum communication system delivered her words with crystal clarity. "They don't want us as equals, Mr. President. They want us as pets." Morrison sat back in his chair, studying the faces of his cabinet members. Defense Secretary Helen Brooks looked angry. Science Advisor Richard Hayes seemed almost relieved. Around the table, the people who guided humanity's future digested the news that their species was now alone among the stars. "Recommendations?" Morrison asked. "We accelerate everything," Brooks said immediately. "Defense projects, colonization efforts, technology development. If they want to treat us like a threat, we might as well become one." Hayes nodded agreement. "Our research programs have been held back by council regulations and compatibility requirements. Without those restrictions, we can pursue developments they would never approve." Morrison looked out the window at the lights of Washington below. Somewhere up there, beyond Earth's atmosphere, human colonies on Mars and Europa were waiting for news of the vote. They would be disappointed but not surprised. Humanity had always been better at going it alone. "Send word to all colonies and research stations," Morrison ordered. "We're done asking for permission. It's time to show the galaxy what humans can accomplish when nobody is holding us back." The meeting broke up quickly, cabinet members hurrying. to implement decisions that would reshape humanity's future. Morrison remained in his office, staring at the stars and wondering if they had just made the biggest mistake in human history or taken the first step toward something greater than anyone could imagine. 6 months had passed since Ambassador Lisa Carter walked out of the Galactic Council chambers, and the silence from human space was starting to make alien leaders nervous. Chairman Vexstar had expected the humans to come crawling back within weeks, begging for readmission to galactic civilization. Instead, every attempt at communication met with automated responses that politely but firmly declined all contact. The first signs of trouble appeared in the Zephyrian trade reports. Minister Klexendi stared at the numbers on his floating display screen with growing concern. Imports from human space had dropped to zero overnight, which was expected. What nobody had predicted was how much that would hurt Zephyrian markets, human-made. Products had somehow become popular among civilian populations across dozens of worlds. Their tools lasted longer than elegant Zephyrian equivalents. Their entertainment systems were crude but surprisingly engaging. Their food preservation methods were simple but incredibly effective. Now those products were gone in replacement. Demand was overwhelming traditional suppliers who had grown lazy competing against what they considered inferior alternatives. The economic impact is spreading, Klexendi reported to the emergency council session. Our manufacturers cannot keep up with replacement demand. Consumer satisfaction ratings have dropped significantly. Several industrial contracts are failing because we relied on human components that we considered temporary solutions. Chairman Vexstar's tentacles writhed with irritation. Surely the galaxy can function without primitive human technology. We managed perfectly well before they appeared. The Nexari representative's crystalline body flickered with uncertain light patterns. That may not be entirely accurate. Our analysis indicates that human research contributions were more significant than initially assessed. Their approach, too? Problems often revealed solutions that our methodologies had overlooked. More reports followed from other council members. The Altarian medical establishment admitted that several breakthrough treatments had originated from human research teams. The Corvani military had been quietly studying human tactical innovations. The ethereal collective's philosophers were struggling to replace human perspectives in their cultural exchange programs. Meanwhile, across human space, something remarkable was happening. Dr. Danny Walsh led a team of engineers on Europa Station as they stripped down a captured Zephyrian drive system. Without the need to maintain compatibility with alien standards, they could modify and improve the technology without restrictions. "Look at this power coupling," Danny said to his assistant. Karen Mills. "They built it to last forever, but it's incredibly inefficient. If we replace these crystals with our superconducting cores and reroute the plasma flow through a magnetic bottle system, we can triple the power output." The breakthrough came 3 days later when their modified drive system performed better than anything in the known galaxy. The fusion of human engineering principles with alien technology created something entirely new and vastly superior to either component alone. Similar scenes played out across human civilization. On Mars, Chief Scientist Amy Foster made a discovery that shocked even her own team. By combining human quantum mechanics understanding with captured Nexari data crystals, she had created a faster-than-light communication system that worked instantaneously across any distance. "This should be impossible according to alien science," Amy told her research partner Bob Taylor. "They kept insisting that quantum entanglement couldn't maintain coherence over interstellar distances. They were wrong. They just weren't thinking about the problem correctly." The quantum communicator changed everything for human expansion efforts. Colony ships could now maintain real-time contact with Earth and coordinate their activities across vast distances. What had been humanity's greatest weakness in space? Colonization suddenly became their greatest strength. Admiral Steve Johnson watched the construction of humanity's new fleet from the command center of Luna shipyards. The vessels taking shape in the massive construction bays bore no resemblance to the ships humans had built under Council regulations. These new designs incorporated the best human engineering with improved versions of alien technology. How long until the first squadron is ready? Johnson asked his chief engineer, Nancy Cruz. The Independence should be ready for trials next month, Nancy replied. The rest of the squadron will follow within 6 weeks. Admiral, these ships are going to surprise a lot of people. Our improvements to the alien designs have produced capabilities that exceed anything in their fleets. President Morrison visited the shipyards 2 weeks later and stood amazed at what human ingenuity had accomplished in just 6 months of unrestricted development. The Independence hung in its construction bay like a sleeping giant bristling with weapon systems that combined human innovation with alien technology in ways the original designers had never imagined. What's our defensive status? Morrison asked Admiral Johnson. Every human system now has automated defense platforms using the new hybrid technology, Johnson reported. Any alien ship entering our space will face weapons they can't understand and defenses they can't penetrate. We've also accelerated the colonization program using our new quantum communication network. The president smiled as he reviewed the expansion reports. Human colony ships had found dozens of systems the aliens had written off as worthless or too dangerous to colonize. High-gravity worlds that would crush most alien species were perfect for humans who had evolved on a heavy planet. Asteroid belts that alien ships couldn't navigate safely were treasure troves for human miners who specialized in dangerous operations. Dr. Sandra Kim's terraforming team had achieved something the Council considered impossible by reshaping the atmosphere of a dead world in just 4 months. Her methods were crude by alien standards but incredibly effective, using controlled nuclear reactions and atmospheric processors that no alien species would dare attempt. The Galactic Council's intelligence services began to take notice of these developments. Spy satellites detected massive construction projects throughout human space. Energy signatures suggested technologies that shouldn't exist. Most disturbing of all, humans were expanding into regions of space that the Council had never bothered to explore. Director Zixara of Council Intelligence presented his findings to an emergency session that included only the most senior members. Human expansion has not slowed despite our restrictions. If anything, it has accelerated. They are colonizing systems we classified as uninhabitable and extracting resources from locations we considered worthless. Chairman Vextar studied the holographic displays showing human activity across their corner of the galaxy. What are their capabilities? Unknown, Zixara admitted. They have ceased all communication with our monitoring stations. Their new ships use technologies we cannot identify. Their defensive systems have destroyed 3 of our reconnaissance probes. Without any apparent effort, the room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Council had assumed that cutting humans off from galactic civilization would weaken them and force them to accept alien authority. Instead, isolation had freed humanity to pursue developments that terrified even the most advanced alien species. Are they preparing for war? Asked the Corvani military representative. We don't know, Zixara replied. But their actions suggest they are preparing for something. The question is whether they intend to rejoin galactic civilization on their own terms or replace it entirely. Chairman Vextar's tentacles curled with worry as he dismissed the meeting. The Council had created a problem they didn't understand and couldn't control. Somewhere in the depths of space, humanity was building something that would change the galaxy forever. The only question was whether that change would come through negotiation or conquest. 1 year after humanity severed all diplomatic ties with the Galactic Council, Captain Bobby Lewis stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel UES Pioneer and watched his sensors display something that would have been impossible just months earlier. His ship was deep in uncharted space, farther from Earth than any human had ever traveled, yet he could talk to President Morrison in real time thanks to the quantum communication network that now connected every human outpost across the galaxy. Mr. President, we found another cluster of inhabitable systems, Bobby reported. 12 worlds that would be perfect for human colonization. The aliens never bothered to explore this far from their established territories. Morrison's voice came through the speakers with crystal clarity despite the impossible distance. Any signs of alien presence? Nothing at all, sir. This entire region appears to be completely unknown to the Council species. We could establish 50 colonies out here and they would never know until we wanted them to know. The conversation represented everything that had changed about humanity's approach to space exploration. No longer bound by Council regulations. About territorial claims or exploration permits, human ships ranged freely across the galaxy. They found resources the aliens had missed, worlds the aliens had ignored, and opportunities the aliens had never imagined. Back on Luna City, President Morrison stood before the largest gathering in human history. Representatives from every colony, research station, and outpost had come together for what historians would later call the Independence Declaration. Behind Morrison, massive holographic displays showed the expanding human presence across dozens of star systems. 1 year ago, the Galactic Council told us that humanity must know its place in their established order, Morrison began. They restricted us to 3 systems while they controlled hundreds. They dismissed our achievements and questioned our right to exist as equals among the stars. The crowd remained silent, hanging on every word. Morrison's voice carried to every human settlement through the quantum network, reaching millions of people who had never seen Earth but considered themselves part of humanity's great adventure. Today I can report that humanity has answered their restrictions with action rather than words. We have established colonies on 37 worlds they said were impossible to inhabit. We have built research stations in regions they considered too dangerous to explore. We have developed technologies they claimed were beyond our primitive understanding. Dr. Sandra Kim watched the speech from her laboratory on New Terra, a world she had personally terraformed using methods that violated every Council safety regulation. Around her, atmospheric processors hummed with activity as they continued reshaping the planet's environment. What would have taken the alien centuries to accomplish, human engineering had completed in less than a year. We are no longer asking for permission to expand human civilization, Morrison continued. We are no longer seeking approval for our scientific research. We are no longer accepting limitations imposed by those who fear what humanity might accomplish when given the freedom to pursue our potential. The speech was being monitored by Council intelligence services across the galaxy. In the emergency session that followed, Chairman Vexstar struggled to maintain order as panicked reports flooded in from every border region near human space. They have established military installations on 17 worlds we didn't even know existed, reported Intelligence Director Zixara. Their defensive systems are active and appear to be far more advanced than anything in our fleets. Any ship approaching human territory is scanned by technologies we cannot identify and warned away by automated systems. The hegemony's Warcast representative Krellinox pounded his armored fist on the table. This is intolerable. The humans are building an empire in violation of every galactic treaty. We should launch a preemptive strike before they become too powerful to stop? With what? Zixara asked quietly. Our reconnaissance missions have been complete failures. 3 more probe ships were destroyed this week while attempting to gather intelligence on human military capabilities. We know nothing about their weapons, their defenses, or their fleet strength. The Council's military advisors had spent months trying to assess the human threat, and their reports grew more alarming with each passing week. Human ships moved faster than anything the aliens had ever built. Human weapons could destroy targets at ranges that exceeded alien sensor capabilities. Human defensive systems could track and eliminate threats that alien computers couldn't even detect. Commander Lisa Rodriguez stood in the control center of Fortress Alpha, one of the massive defensive installations that now protected human space. The station was built into an asteroid using construction techniques that combined human mining expertise with alien material science. The result was a fortress that could withstand direct hits from the most powerful weapons in the alien arsenal, while delivering devastating counterattacks. Any movement on the perimeter? Lisa asked her sensor operator Chris Baker. Nothing new. The Zephyrian patrol ship is still maintaining its distance at the edge of our sensor range. It's been there for 6 hours, probably trying to gather intelligence on our defensive capabilities. Lisa smiled as she activated the station's external communication system. Zephyrian vessel, you are approaching the boundaries of human space. Please adjust your course to avoid our defensive perimeter or you will be treated as a hostile contact. The alien ship immediately changed course and retreated to a safer distance. Word had spread quickly through alien military channels that human warnings were not empty threats. Several ships had been destroyed when they ignored similar messages, vaporized by weapon systems that struck without any visible projectiles or energy beams. Dr. Karen Walsh worked in her laboratory aboard the research station Endeavor, analyzing samples from a gas giant that alien surveys had declared worthless. Her team had discovered that the planet's atmosphere contained rare elements in concentrations that would make mining operations incredibly profitable. More importantly, they had developed extraction methods that worked in conditions no alien species could survive. The preliminary analysis is complete, Karen reported to the Colonial Administration. This single world could supply rare Earth elements for human civilization for the next 1,000 years. The aliens wrote it off because their ships can't operate in the radiation environment, but our improved shielding makes it perfectly accessible. Engineering Chief Danny Walsh supervised the construction of humanity's first Stargate in the Proxima system. The massive ring-shaped structure would allow instantaneous travel between distant human colonies, creating a transportation network that would make human space effectively immune to alien military action. Even if enemies destroyed individual colonies, the survivors could evacuate through the gate network faster than any alien fleet could pursue them. How long until activation? Asked Admiral Johnson during his inspection tour. 3 more weeks for final calibration, Danny replied. Once we bring this online, travel time between any 2 human systems drops to 0. We'll be able to move entire fleets instantly or evacuate threatened populations in minutes. The implications were staggering. Human civilization would become truly distributed and resilient, able to survive any conceivable attack while striking back from multiple directions simultaneously. The aliens had created their own worst nightmare by forcing humanity to develop independent capabilities. Back in the council chambers, Chairman Vextar received the most disturbing report yet from his intelligence services. Human expansion showed no signs of slowing down. If anything, the rate of colonization was increasing as their transportation and terraforming technologies improved. Projections suggested that human-controlled space would exceed Council territory within 5 years. They're not trying to rejoin galactic civilization, Vextar realized with growing horror. They're building a replacement for it. 18 months after humanity's dramatic exit from galactic diplomacy, Dr. Karen Walsh sat across from Ambassador Krelak of the Alkari Republic in a secret meeting room on the neutral station Haven's Rest. The bird-like alien's feathers rustled with nervous energy as he spoke in whispers despite the room's sound-dampening systems. My government cannot officially acknowledge this meeting, Krelak said, his translator giving his words a metallic edge. But we need human defensive technology. The hegemony has been pressuring smaller council members to contribute more ships to their military buildup. We fear they plan something aggressive. Karen studied the alien diplomat carefully. The Alkari had always been treated as second-class members of the council, their opinions dismissed and their contributions undervalued. Like many smaller species, they were beginning to question why they needed council approval for their own foreign relations. What exactly are you offering? Karen asked. Safe harbor for human ships in Alkari space. Access to our mining stations in the Kepler Nebula. Most importantly, we can provide advance warning if the Council plans military action against human territory. The negotiations continued for 3 hours, resulting in humanity's first bilateral agreement with a Council member species. The deal bypassed the Council entirely, establishing direct relations between 2 sovereign civilizations. Within days, similar meetings were taking place with the silicon-based Vrathan and the aquatic Chitauri president. Morrison convened an emergency session of the Earth Senate to address the flood of alien contact requests. Senator Paul Davis argued, for maintaining complete isolation, while Senator Grace Torres pushed for selective engagement with species that offered genuine partnerships rather than patronizing assistance. The question before us is fundamental, Morrison told the assembled senators. Do we remain completely isolated, or do we begin accepting individual species as partners on our terms? The debate was intense, but the vote was unanimous. Humanity would deal with alien species individually, judging each relationship on its own merits, rather than accepting the Council's authority over interspecies relations. The decision sent shockwaves through the established galactic order. Chairman Vextar called an emergency council session when intelligence reports confirmed that 3 member species had signed formal agreements with humanity. The chamber buzzed with angry voices as representatives realized the implications of the human strategy. This is diplomatic warfare, declared the Nexari representative, his crystalline body flashing with agitated colors. The humans are deliberately undermining Council authority by offering bilateral relationships to our member species. It's worse than that, Intelligence Director Zixara reported grimly. 7 additional species have sent unofficial envoys to human space seeking similar arrangements. The humans aren't just offering trade deals. They're providing technologies and defensive capabilities that these species cannot obtain through Council channels. The military situation had deteriorated beyond all predictions. Admiral Johnson's fleet conducted massive exercises along the borders of human space, displaying capabilities that made Council defense analysts question everything they thought they knew about warfare. Human ships moved through space in formations that defied conventional tactical wisdom. Their weapons reached impossible ranges, and their defensive systems could stop attacks that should have been unstoppable. General Marcus Hill stood in the command center of Fortress Prime, watching as automated mining platforms stripped resources from asteroid belts at rates that would have taken alien operations decades to achieve. The minerals flowed through the Stargate network to construction facilities that operated around the clock, building more ships, more stations, and more defensive installations. Intelligence estimates on Council fleet strength? Hill asked his aide, Lieutenant Tom Anderson. Their combined forces include approximately 15,000 vessels of various classes, Anderson replied. However, our analysts believe less than half are combat effective by modern standards. Most of their technology is centuries old with only incremental improvements. Hill nodded as he reviewed the tactical displays. Human space was now protected by a network of fortresses that could coordinate their defensive fire across multiple star systems simultaneously. Any attacking force would face overlapping fields of fire from weapons they couldn't understand, delivered by targeting systems that operated faster than biological reflexes could respond. The economic warfare was proving even more effective than military preparations. Dr. Emma Clark's xenobiology research had revealed a disturbing truth about Council species that President Morrison found both fascinating and terrifying. The aliens' technological development had stagnated because their rigid social hierarchies discouraged innovation and risk-taking. They've been coasting on discoveries made thousands of years ago, Emma explained during her briefing to the Defense Council. Their educational systems emphasize conformity and adherence to established methods. Individual creativity is discouraged in favor of collective harmony. They literally cannot innovate at the rate humanity considers normal. The implications were staggering. Human civilization had surpassed species with 1,000-year head starts in less than 2 years simply by approaching problems differently. Where aliens saw impossible challenges, humans saw engineering puzzles to be solved. Where aliens accepted limitations, humans found ways around them. The first major defection from the Council came when the Nexari Collective formally requested a private audience with human leadership. Their crystalline representatives arrived at the diplomatic station New Geneva aboard ships that were clearly struggling with mechanical failures. The proud species that had once dismissed human technology as primitive now desperately needed human help to save their failing computer networks. Dr. Jennifer Walsh led the human negotiating team as they met with the Nexari. Delegation in a conference room overlooking the construction of humanity's largest stargate. The aliens' bodies flickered with nervous light patterns as they explained their crisis. Our data storage systems are experiencing cascading failures, the lead Nexari explained. The quantum matrices that hold our civilization's knowledge are degrading faster than our technicians can repair them. We need human quantum computing expertise to prevent the loss of 10,000 years of accumulated data. The negotiations were swift and decisive. In exchange for access to human quantum computing technology, the Nexari would provide detailed intelligence about Council military capabilities and political divisions. More importantly, they would formally withdraw from all Council decisions. Regarding human affairs, the agreement represented a massive victory for human diplomacy. The Nexari Collective was one of the Council's founding members, and their defection would encourage other species to question their continued participation in an organization that seemed increasingly irrelevant. Captain Maria Santos commanded the human vessel UES Determination as it conducted peaceful surveys of systems. The Council had declared off-limits to all exploration. Her mission was as much psychological warfare as scientific research, demonstrating that human ships could operate anywhere in the galaxy without Council permission or protection. Any response from the boundary monitors? Maria asked her communications officer, Negative Captain. The automated warning buoys are broadcasting standard territorial warnings, but no ships are moving to intercept. It appears the Council has decided not to enforce their restrictions against us. The decision represented a complete collapse of Council authority over human activities. Unable to stop human expansion through military force and unwilling to risk open conflict with an enemy whose capabilities remained unknown, the Council could only watch as humans colonized worlds they had claimed as restricted territory. Admiral Kevin Morgan oversaw the establishment of humanity's new diplomatic corps from his headquarters on New Geneva. The organization operated on principles that would have been unthinkable under Council oversight, treating all species as potential equals rather than subjects of a hierarchical system. Our embassy ships are reporting contact requests from 12 additional species this week, Morgan told President Morrison during their weekly briefing. The Council's control over interspecies relations is collapsing as more civilizations realize they can deal directly with us instead of going through Council bureaucracy. Morrison smiled as he reviewed the reports. The strategy was working better than anyone had dared hope. By refusing to participate in the Council's system, humanity had exposed its fundamental weakness. The organization only had power over species that chose to accept its authority, and that choice was becoming increasingly questionable as human alternatives proved more attractive. 2 years after humanity's dramatic exit from galactic diplomacy, the Galactic Council chamber looked like a shadow of its former glory. Only 12 species remained in what had once been a gathering of 47 member worlds. Empty seats stretched across the vast dome where proud alien civilizations had once debated the future of the galaxy. The remaining representatives sat in clusters, their voices echoing in the cavernous space as they discussed the unthinkable. Chairman Vextar stood at the central podium, his tentacles drooping with defeat as he faced the reality that had destroyed his life's work. The hegemony scientists had confirmed what everyone feared most. Human technology had advanced so far beyond Council capabilities that military action would be suicide rather than conquest. Intelligence reports confirm that human defensive systems now protect 43 star systems, Vextar announced to the diminished assembly. Their Stargate network allows instant movement of forces between any threatened location. Even if we could penetrate their defenses, they could evacuate entire populations faster than our fleets could pursue them. The Corvani military representative shifted uncomfortably in his environmental suit. What about the species that have allied with them? Can we pressure them to reconsider? Negative, replied Intelligence Director Zixara. 17 former Council members now have formal defense agreements with humanity. The humans have provided them with technologies that make their systems nearly as well protected as human space itself. The situation had deteriorated beyond salvage. Captain Maria Santos commanded the human vessel UES Sovereign as it conducted routine patrols through space that the Council had once claimed as restricted territory. Her ship moved with casual confidence through regions where no alien vessel dared to venture, its sensors mapping resources and potential colony sites that would fuel human expansion for generations. Any Council activity in the sector? Maria asked her tactical officer Lieutenant Jake Parker. Nothing significant. 2 hegemony patrol ships maintaining maximum sensor range. They've been shadowing us for 3 days, but haven't attempted any kind of intercept or communication. Maria nodded as she reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The remaining Council forces spent most of their time monitoring human activities while carefully avoiding any actions that might provoke a response. The predators had become the prey, watching nervously as humanity expanded across the galaxy with unstoppable momentum. The breakthrough moment came when President Morrison received an encrypted communication through channels that officially didn't exist. The message was brief but carried implications that would reshape galactic civilization. Chairman Vexstar, speaking for the remaining Council members, formally requested an audience with human leadership. They want to negotiate, Morrison told his cabinet during an emergency meeting in the White House Situation Room. Not as our superiors granting us privileges, but as equals seeking a peaceful resolution to what they now recognize as an existential crisis. Defense Secretary Helen Brooks studied the communication logs with barely concealed satisfaction. Their tone has changed completely. No more condescending language about young species learning their place. They're asking for terms, not dictating them. Dr. Jennifer Walsh was selected to lead humanity's first diplomatic mission in 2 years. But the circumstances could not have been more different from Lisa Carter's original tenure. Jennifer arrived at the Council chambers aboard the UES Sovereign, a ship so advanced that alien sensor operators could barely track its movements through space. The meeting took place in a smaller chamber than the Grand Dome where Lisa had been humiliated years earlier. Only the core Council leadership attended, their representatives studying Jennifer with expressions that mixed fear with desperate hope. The balance of power had shifted so completely that humans now held all the advantages. Honored Council members, Jennifer began, her voice carrying easily through the chamber's acoustics. Humanity is prepared to discuss the establishment of limited diplomatic relations with your remaining member species. Chairman Vexstar's tentacles trembled as he spoke. What would humanity require for such an arrangement? Recognition of human sovereignty over all currently occupied systems, Jennifer replied without hesitation. Formal acknowledgement that the Council has no authority over human affairs. Most importantly, any future diplomatic relations will be conducted between individual species and humanity on a bilateral basis. The terms were devastating to Council authority but represented the only alternative to complete irrelevance. The organization that had once controlled galactic civilization would survive as a diminished regional association while humanity established itself as the dominant power among the stars. The formal signing ceremony took place 3 months later on New Geneva, humanity's diplomatic capital. Representatives from 37 species attended the establishment of the Reformed Galactic Assembly, an organization built on principles of genuine equality rather than hierarchical dominance. Admiral Kevin Morgan watched the proceedings from the observation deck of the orbital station, marveling at how completely the situation had reversed. Alien diplomats who had once dismissed humanity as primitive upstarts now competed for favorable trade agreements and defense partnerships with human civilization. President Morrison delivered the opening address to delegates gathered from across the galaxy. Behind him, holographic displays showed the scope of human achievement in just 2 years of unrestricted development. 43 colonized worlds, industrial output that exceeded the remaining Council species combined, and technological capabilities that had redefined what was possible in space. The galaxy that sought to limit humanity to 3 star systems now spans territories that were unimaginable when this journey began, Morrison declared. We have proven that the word impossible has no meaning when applied to human determination and ingenuity. The ceremony concluded with the activation of humanity's first interstellar Stargate network, connecting human space in ways that made traditional concepts of distance meaningless. Children from dozens of species watched in wonder as the massive, ring-shaped structures demonstrated humanity's mastery over space and time itself. Dr. Emma Clark stood in her laboratory on Luna City, analyzing samples from the first human colony established beyond the galactic rim. Her team had discovered methods for surviving in environments that alien science considered completely hostile to life. Humanity was no longer limited to the galaxy's habitable regions, opening possibilities for expansion that stretched to infinity. The preliminary surveys are complete, Emma reported to the Colonial Administration. The Andromeda approach routes are clear for settlement operations. We can begin establishing outposts in the neighboring galaxy within 18 months. The implications staggered even human planners. While alien civilizations struggled to maintain control over their traditional territories, humanity was preparing to expand beyond the galaxy itself. The species that had been restricted to 3-star systems was now planning settlements. Among distant stars that no alien had ever imagined reaching, Lisa Carter returned to diplomatic service as humanity's first ambassador to the reformed Galactic Assembly, the same woman who had walked out of the council chambers in defiance, now serving as humanity's representative to a transformed galactic community. Her office overlooked the construction of New Geneva's expansion, where species from across the galaxy came to seek partnership with the civilization they had once dismissed. The final irony was not lost on anyone who remembered the early days of human contact with galactic civilization. The council that had questioned human maturity and demanded patience from a young species had been replaced by an organization that looked to humanity for leadership and innovation. The galaxy that had sought to teach humans their place now followed human examples in everything from technology to diplomacy. President Morrison concluded his memoirs with a simple observation that captured the transformation of galactic civilization. They wanted us to know our place in their established order. We showed them that our place was wherever we chose to make it, and that their established order was just another obstacle to overcome. 5 years after humanity severed all diplomatic ties with the Galactic Council, human children played in parks on worlds that spanned 3 galaxies while their alien friends marveled at the adventures that awaited them, among stars that no longer seemed distant or impossible to reach.